third take or fourth, I don't know. I've come to the realization that you guys kinda suck and you need to learn anatomy, you know? No, I'm not the best at anatomy, but I can definitely show you the way I usually study it. I'm not the most consistent with it, but I have all the resources and all the stuff that you might need if you want to learn anatomy, as it's like one of the most crucial things when it comes to learning animation. So, oh, and before I start, I gotta make this quick shout out to my boy Nick, Nick Graphics. He's the one who made that Sukuna, like Jujutsu Kaisen manga animation that's like so legacy now. But since the beginning of the year, he's been grinding insane. Pause. And it's perfect that I'm making this video because he's been doing a lot of gesture drawings and anatomy studies, as well as even animation tests, which is super inspiring to see. So please check him out. And it's kind of funny that I'm making a shout out for someone who's bigger than me. Pause. But yeah, people stuff. Pause. Firstly, in order to do your studies, you obviously need a spot to study on, meaning you need somewhere like a sketchbook or a tablet to draw on. And my thing is, you don't necessarily need a super fancy spot, a super fancy, I don't know, like a sketchbook or a super dope tablet to draw on. Like for me, for example, I've been handed a couple of sketchbooks when I was in high school, and I've used these in order to do my sketches and studies and whatnot. I've also done a lot of studies through the Clip Studio animation file, which is something that I'm going to show later. But the point is that you stay consistent and you find a way to stay consistent by finding a medium which is comfortable enough for you to come back to every single time. That's at least my way of perceiving it. So now that you got your materials, let's say a pencil, maybe a pen, a little sketchbook, maybe you want to draw on some newspaper. Well, as long as you have all your stuff, well, I guess it's time to find your reference and stop. Slow down, because we gotta go back. And by that I mean drawing 3D shapes. And I'm gonna show you why. So to illustrate my example, I have this little drawing I have made here of a simple body. And it does seem correct, right? Well, no, it's not. Let me tell you why. So for one, the proportions are completely shaped up. Then you got the shape of the actual body, which looks completely two-dimensional. And clearly there's a lack of simplicity that is fully understood, meaning that the 3D shapes that I wanted to convey are not very expressive nor comprehensible. It's like I haven't done any research on how to draw shapes, so I just invented some without any cohesion, so it looks kinda... it sucks. Plus there's a sense of rustiness that you can feel out of the drawing. It looks stiff, it's very disproportionate. There's no actual feeling to the gesture, and that can happen when you haven't been very consistent with your studies. But all this can be fixed through learning how to draw 3D shapes, like a cube for example. So when it comes to the proportions, an easy way to dissect the proportions is through the head, which is something I do personally, but you can also do it with boxes, which enables the 3D shapes to be present on the canvas, so it gives you a sense of depth to it, which also alleviates the sense of two-dimensionality, which completely destroys the depth of the drawing. And through different shapes like cylinders or rectangular shapes and pyramids and all that, that's where you fully grasp the sense of three-dimensionality depending on what shape you're trying to convey, depending on what body shape you want to draw. So let's say I want to draw an arm, so clearly I'm going to use a cylinder to draw that arm. And my personal ways of studying and copying 3D shapes are through a plethora of things, as like the line of action section where you can draw 3D shapes on a timer, as well as this weird cube website where you can move around this cube in different perspectives and you can copy them. Sketchfab is also pretty good to look up a bunch of 3D stuff. That's why I usually draw my shapes the most, because of the variety of 3D shapes. And my personal favorite, which is a bit more demanding, is Peter Hahn's dynamic sketching class, which is this class where he teaches you how to draw specific things, very fundamental stuff, and other pretty miscellaneous things that I highly recommend. I'm also linking all these things in the description, by the way. Also, learning how to draw basic perspective can also be helpful. So usually I'm somewhat of a big advocate when it comes to cultivating your own garden of resources, but at the same time I also think that learning from somebody and having a pre-curated lesson on how things work, which in this case would be anatomy, is also very helpful. Hence why I mentioned Pikat's dynamic sketching class. And aside from all the references I'm giving and I'm going to give later in the video, one important resource that I think you should check out is today's sponsor, Skillshare. Essentially what you're going to find on Skillshare is this massive community pretty much made by creatives for creatives. They share thousands of classes on a good variety of subjects, with some that may pique your interests like creativity and inspiration, marketing and business, maybe even something like development. But since we're talking anatomy, I think there's one lesson that you should check out in particular, which is Jazz's 28-day drawing challenge about anatomy for illustration and comics. There are many other ways of learning anatomy, but I think for this lesson, if you want to learn general structure of the human body, you should definitely check out this lesson. Not to mention that for a subject as complex as anatomy, you have so much info that is condensed into just one singular class. Now, if you're unsure on immediately joining Skillshare and you'd rather try it out first, but the good thing is that Skillshare offers a 1-month free trial to the first 500 people to click on the link in the description. And if I'm being real, I mean, you gotta get on that, bro. Because frankly, you can learn a lot in a month. You gotta take advantage of that, aight? And I would like to thank Skillshare for sponsoring this video and for continuously supporting this channel, as well as for providing you guys with their amazing classes. Okay, back to the anatomy bootcamp. Alright, now that you're good with your shapes, because you're probably sick of them by now, you finally want to study anatomy. So, if I'm being for real, watch Pikat's video, she explains it perfectly. But I've been studying like this for a while now, so she's not like the ambassador of learning anatomy. So I'm just gonna explain it in this video as well. Obviously, I mean, this is what you clicked on this video for. So one thing that I find important for the beginning is to actually know what you want to study. So if you, I don't know, let's say find a book and you end up being like, oh, wait a minute, I actually don't know what I want to study, and you end up being overwhelmed, or you gotta take things slowly. So let's say you have an issue when it comes to drawing legs, which is my issue actually, or just tackle that head on. Then you want to look for the right resources. So I'm just going to list them here all over my screen when it comes to the books at least, maybe other stuff as well. Lineofaction.com is also very good for in real life references, and that's all you really need, man. And well, yeah, you got all your stuff, you got your paper, and I guess it's time to draw, man. So my regular studies consist of copying what I see in my book, just simply redrawing what is crucial and important to me. Once I'm done with that, and I understand how the different stuff works, I also write the text because we're not just drawers. I just throw my book to the side, find the IRL reference, and copy what I just learned by using the IRL reference. And obviously I'm going to give it a couple of times because I can't just simply master something that I just learned in an instant. Also, don't waste too much time on your studies. It's gonna save you. And yeah, from that point on, keep it consistent, because it's not gonna come from one day to another. You don't even gotta spend all that much time on it. Like spend like a good 20 minutes a day through gesture drawing, for example. And speaking of gesture drawing, this is what I'm going to talk about as well, which is also a very crucial thing when it comes to learning animation. Given that we have to understand the notion, the principle of exaggeration, obviously we will have to understand how the body and the poses function. So now I have to point down this difference between fluidity and structure. So when it comes to gesture drawing, the key point is that it stays as fundamental and simplistic as possible to accentuate the flow of the movement that the body is expressing, which is a very essential thing to animation, because you want to make sure that what you're trying to convey is very expressive and exaggerated in comparison to something very structural. This is where you're heavily focused on the quality of the drawing. So you're gonna be focusing on things like 3D shapes and depth and whatnot, proportions, just things that look very correct to the human body. And for gesture drawing as well as structure drawing, is it called like that? I don't know. Well, firstly I have to give a little shout out to Frosty, because she has like a whole page where you just link all her references in one. It's like a huge goldmine, so please check it out. Oh, and follow her on Twitter, of course. And other than that, you have your other websites such as line of action. There's also similar pages like Quickposes.com, Sketchdaily, and when it comes to other websites, you have Huaban. I've never really used it, but since Pinterest kind of sucks now, well, there's lots of references that you can find on it as well, like ways to draw gestures and what kind of style you want to develop for that. But honestly, I'd say doing gesture drawings very frequently is really going to develop the way you're going to do your rough animation and also how it influences your shorthand. Like mine is very simple and is fully based on the way I've been doing gesture drawings. And yeah, I guess I'm done here. I mean, there's nothing much to say when it comes to what I usually use. So I'm just gonna show you how I usually do my studies. So this one's kind of going to be a quickie pause because I just want to show you how I curate my files and show you an easy way to organize all your studies. So if it annoys you to make a file of every single drawing session that you're gonna make, well, there's a pretty easy way to organize your stuff by just simply making an animation file and using each frame like a page, each frame serving as a session. Also, if you're lost on that one, you can check out volume 3.5 where I explained how I configure all my Sketchdaily Paint stuff. You can essentially use the same principle for any drawing program. I mean, like Critter, even Flipperclip. And it's a pretty simple concept, really. I don't see a lot of people doing that, if I'm being honest. So usually I have a different screen dedicated to all the references that I am going to use and another screen for my drawings. But I'm just going to plaster two into one screen because I want to show you how exactly it's gonna look like when I draw my poses. So it ends up actually being pretty simple exercise. I mean, what you have to do is really find the motion of the pose. Like me, for example, before even starting to draw the different body part and whatnot, I already laid down a line of action to understand the motion of the pose. And then I'm going to use very abstract and expressive forms and arcs to illustrate and to simplify the different body shapes that are also influenced by the line of action. When it comes to things like muscles, I just express them in the simplest way too. It really comes down to, yeah, it just comes down to simplicity, really. And depending on with what you're comfortable with, a simple minute could suffice. Sometimes I do 30 seconds to even go even deeper into the simplicity and keep things as bare bones as possible, basically. And for each minute, let's say, you're just going to shift between different references, and you're just going to do that until the page is filled. And if you're done with your poses, let's say you've drawn like 10 poses, well, you'll see that you've only spent 10 minutes doing your studies. And if you want to do more, then you're just going to flip your page, or rather your frame in this instance. And I guess I'm done. I mean, what else do you want from me? I hope you took notes from what I said though, because I spit some real game right there. Oh, and anatomy stuff aside, I gotta give like a couple of updates when it comes to this channel. I've already talked about it on my community note that probably nobody saw, but I had like a fully swollen hand. It's kind of crazy, but it's fully fixed. I can draw again, and I'm planning on making more videos like this, hopefully a bit shorter. And animation wise, I also have a couple of things that I want to work on, which are going to take a lot of time, but you'll see you'll see eventually what I'm going to post one day. Also, I'm not trying to downplay myself, but I gotta remind y'all that I'm not the best at anatomy. I actually kind of hate it. And I always recommend learning from professionals and bigger artists, anatomy books and all that. And I'm going to link them in my description as well. And always refer to them if you want like more advanced stuff, as opposed to me just giving you a leeway into demonstrating the way I usually study anatomy and other stuff. And other than that, I mean, if you want to see more videos like this, just let me know, because I kind of like making these videos, just teaching you guys the way I just draw, the way I demonstrate my habits. Oh, and this is also like a bit up in the air, but I've had a couple of people asking me if I could do like live streams. A bit complicated given my environment right now, but still, let me know if you find any interest in that, because I've been seeing, yeah, shout out to Kai. Shout out to Kai Regi. I've seen him studying, just doing a bunch of animation stuff for I don't know how long, and he is going crazy. Sometimes I see like streams of him doing like 6-hour long drawing sessions, animation sessions, and he just doesn't stop. I don't know how he has the time to do that, but it's super admirable. So check him out, please, and tune into his streams from time to time. But Kai, get a mic. Please. I still fuck with you, okay? Maybe a little sketchbook tour could be interesting as well. I don't know, I have a bunch of ideas that I want to execute. Thank you to my sponsors especially. Thank you to you guys. I also have to thank some of my supporters on Coffee, as well as all my mutuals and friends who are there to support me. I got a lot of perspectives now, man. God damn it. Alright, so we cool now? Cool, okay, bye.